Hi everybody, Delores here with another Sweeping Saturday. Today I'd like to talk to you about something that we do quite a bit during our league play, and that's measure rocks. The first measuring device that I'd like to talk to you about is this one. It's called the biter bar or the 6-foot measure, and we use this to measure from the center of the rings to see if any rocks that are just outside the rings or biting the rings are actually counting. So the way we do this is we take the pointed end of the measuring stick, put this end down on the ice first, put the pointed end in the pin, and we want to move the measuring stick clockwise. So we're always going to be pushing it away from us. Position yourself behind the stick and move it this way, clockwise. Now, if there's another rock in the way, you just move that rock out of the way, do the measure, and then replace the rock. So we can see that the measuring stick cleared the rock, so the rock is actually a guard. So now what we're going to do is take this stick away, replace the rock, and we're ready to continue with the end. So using the 6-foot measure to see if a guard is actually a guarder in the rings can only be done by the skips while the 5-rock free guard zone is in effect. After that, it can't be done. So now we have the other measuring device. It's called a micrometer, or most people just call it the measuring stick. And what we do with this is we measure rocks to see which ones are actually closest to the button. So it works the same way. You always want to move the measuring stick in a clockwise direction. So what I'm going to do is put the far end of the stick down on the ice first. Then I'm going to put the pointy end in the pin. I'm always going to push the rock away from me. Never have your hand on top of the bar. You always want to have it on the side of the bar. You push it away. Now I'm going to loosen the dial, bring it close to the rock. When you're doing a measure, you want to get a good solid read. So make sure you get well past the quarter point. Pull it back. Now make sure that the other vise is ready to watch the dial with you. You're both standing behind it, push it away. You both read where the dial goes, and then you move on to the next rock to see which one is closest. So we can see that the red rock is closest to the button. When you're moving the measuring device along the ice, don't push it too close to the center. You want to make sure you're well outside the rocks when you're moving it across the ice, just so that it's nice and steady when you're moving it. If you have 2 rocks that need to be measured that are too close to the pin to actually use the measuring stick, you have to just use your eye to determine which one is closest. And if you can't get agreement with the other vise, then you take those 2 rocks out of play and they don't count. You consider them a tie. Also, if there's a rock that needs to be measured at the hog line, there's no measuring device for that. So you just have to agree. If you can't agree, you pull somebody maybe from the other sheet who isn't involved in your game and ask for their opinion as to whether or not the rock is over the hog line. There are a few things as far as the procedure for measuring that are really important. The first thing is that the measuring is done by the vices of each team. So everyone else, the lead, second, and skip should all be far away from the house, not anywhere near the house. The 2 vices are responsible for doing the measure. And once they agree, then they let everyone else know it's okay to move the rocks, and then the rocks get moved to the backboards. If a rock gets moved by someone who doesn't realize that there is supposed to be a measure, that someone has called for a measure, then the non-offending team will get that point. Also, it's never acceptable to use anything other than a measuring stick to do a measure. I know it's tempting to take your broom and put it beside the rock and use your broom to measure, or your foot. That's never acceptable, so don't do that. So the team that requests the measure, that vise will go and retrieve the measuring stick, perform the measure while the other vise watches, and the team that scored that end is going to be going first. So the team that's going second will put the measuring stick back so that they don't hold up the gate.